The Zenless 1.5 special program Astronomical Moment just concluded, which means we have 2 new agents that are releasing with the new version, and you guys need to figure out what banners you should be pulling for once they release. We also have our first official rerun coming to the game with Ellen, Joe, and Ching Yi in this patch, but instead of lumping them all in one video, I'll be making separate ones a bit later. For this video though, we are going to be talking about our new S-rank units Astra Yao and Evelyn Chevalier, and why I'm going to be prioritizing Astra over Evelyn this patch. Now to be clear, both units are looking really amazing, and I do plan to keep it fair when it comes to comparing the units, but there really isn't a wrong or right choice when it comes to who you should pull. There are just some factors players need to consider when picking their banners to prioritize, and I want to give you guys my current perspective on the matter. To start, let's go over what we know about both units so far, starting with Astra. Astra is an S-rank ether support unit that provides buffs to her team through a unique state known as Idyllic Cadenza state. This state is triggered by her special attack, Wind Chimes and Oath, which is an attack that hits enemies with tremolo, aka ether melodies. Her EX special attack is the same move, but the difference is this variation is charged and it attacks enemies with multiple tremolo before entering the Idyllic Cadenza state. Pretty simple special attack so far, but what makes Astra's unique is that she can use either of those skills even if she doesn't have any energy. This is because her energy is tied to a unique mechanic in her kit that we'll go over a bit later. To circle back to her Cadenza state, while it's active, Astra boosts the damage of her entire team, but the weird downside to this is that she's unable to move while it's active because she's too busy putting on a phenomenal seeking performance for her team to enjoy. Now I'm not sure why she just can't sing and move at the same time, but thankfully they at least still gave her the ability to gracefully dodge enemies and attack them while in this state. This allows her to not be as vulnerable as we originally thought, but honestly it wouldn't have really mattered anyway because there's something really crazy about this state. While in Cadenza, Astra has the ability to quick assist to other agents on her team, but when she does, she continues to remain on field with the agent in an invulnerable state and consume a chord, which is the unique mechanic I mentioned earlier. This mechanic allows Astra to support her team with melodies that provide her and the other agent on field an attack buff. We know this because based on her core passive, Graceful Andante, whenever someone on her team switches in using a quick assist, chain attack, or perfect assist, both characters' attack is increased. Now from what I can tell by this chord mechanic, each chord consumes 25 energy, so she needs 100 energy to obtain all 4 chords. Once the chords are loaded, Astra gains access to the unique quick assist, allowing her team to perform at least 4 of them before she runs out of energy. I say at least 4 because you can potentially squeeze in more depending on how you handle your team rotations and how well your team helps Astra build energy. I imagine if done well, a team could potentially trigger 6 or even 8 quick assists before Astra runs out of energy, but we'll definitely need to test that to see if it's possible. Personally, I hope it is because the quick assist mechanic is one of my favorite things to do in Zenless, and depending on the units that utilize Astra well, this could potentially increase their DPS output. I immediately think of Julian when I say this. To focus back on Astra though, we also have her additional ability Moonlight Frenzy that states when triggering a precise assist, Astra releases an additional 1 tremolo and 3 tone clusters. My guess is that this precise assist is what her unique quick assist is called, and when she triggers it, she provides a little bit of DPS for her team. Now something that I didn't mention before is that notice when tremolo and tone clusters hit an enemy, you'll see that's when the precise assist prompt activates. So our indicator for us to know when Astra assist is available is when she attacks a target. Pretty easy to follow. Now this additional ability doesn't seem like it needs to be triggered in order for Astra to be effective, but it's something that'll make operating a team with her so much easier. The only thing that sucks though is that they never stated in stream what units are needed to be paired with Astra. We can assume that since she's being played with Yanagi and Miyabi on her team, that she at least requires to work with anomaly units, but I'm going to predict that she's going to work with both anomaly and attack units. This is because if we look at her kit so far, all of her buffs are extremely universal, so it will make the most sense for her to work with the 2 types of DPS that we build our teams around. This will allow players to construct so many different team comps with Astra, truly making her the premium S-rank support we've been looking for. Next we have her hold basic attack Finale, which allows Astra to exit the Idyllic Cadenza state by consuming energy, and when doing so, it'll apply the attack buff from her core passive to herself. Now since Astra is a support, I don't think applying this buff to herself is something that you need to hard focus on in her general game plan, but but I would keep it in mind so you can take advantage of some extra DPS for your runs. Something that you should be focused on though is her ultimate Fantasian Sonata, which heals Astra's entire squad and triggers 2 precise assists that transforms into chain attacks. This is something that we've never seen before in Zenless, and it's probably the sickest idea that the dev team has come up with. Astra's ultimate just opened up the doors for the DPS potential that units are about to have with her, and she was technically already doing that before we even got here. Like, if we quickly think about a rotation, you could potentially trigger chain attacks like normal with a daze meter, then immediately pop Astra's ult to trigger more chain attacks. You can even use this outside of stun windows to help build stun and even allow attackers to have stronger DPS presence outside of these stun windows. There's so much potential that lies within this ultimate, making me super excited to build this unit once she releases. Astra's definitely going to be changing how Zenless will be played in the near future with the kit like this, and I'll definitely try to be one of the first to show off her potential whenever I get my hands on her. Now, I know that was a lot, so let me break down how Astra should be played. It seems like her job is to remain off field until your team builds the 100 energy that she needs for 4 cores. Once these cores are available, you can then activate a skill to place Astra into the cadenza state and quick assist into the other units to perform their rotations. While these units are on the field, they'll be receiving that attack buff that I mentioned earlier, and Astra will just be in the back cheering them on with her melodies. It's that simple. Just like every other support in the game, playing Astra just involves a really short rotation and everything else will handle itself. The only thing you really need to be mindful of is when Astra runs out of energy and when her ultimate is available, so you can heal your team and get those extra chain attacks in. Now, I imagine the rotations for an Astra team are going to be a bit difficult in the beginning because now we have to be mindful of all the extra quick assists we have at our disposal, which will directly alter rotations for the individual characters a part of her team. It'll take some time to get used to, but I imagine it'll also be a lot of fun once we get it down. Overall though, it looks like Astra is about to provide the best supportive capabilities that the game has ever seen. She seems even more substantial than when Caesar released a few patches ago, and that says a lot because she's currently our best support in the game. Now, this doesn't mean that Astra is going to be power creeping Caesar in any way, because they provide 2 different types of supports, making them both pretty viable options. Honestly, if you have Caesar, you can potentially skip Astra now and pick her up on a rerun in the future because how strong of a unit Caesar is. What I will say though is that right now, Astra is looking like our Run May or Robin of Zenless, meaning that she's a very valuable support to pick up because of the utility she provides. And if my predictions is right and her additional ability allows her to be paired with both anomaly and attackers, she will without a doubt have the most versatility in the game. This makes her a much more valuable unit to pick up in comparison to Evelyn because how well she'll be able to support so many units on a single player's account. But that doesn't mean that Evelyn doesn't have amazing value as well. She's just another DPS that a lot of us don't really need right now, but I will say she is a DPS unit that gives us a glimpse at the future with how attack units will be able to compete with anomaly units. Evelyn is an S rank attacker who specializes in melee combat using a garrote. This is the wire that you see in her gameplay, and it's an assassination weapon that's normally used for strangling enemies, which fits Evelyn's overall aesthetic. Similar to Astra, Evelyn has a state known as a binding seal that is triggered whenever she lands the 5th hit of her basic attack, garrote first form, and her special attack and other skills. This is the primary state that Evelyn wants to be in because her core passive Entangle states that when she enters binding seal, Evelyn's crit rate increases and she retains this buff for a few seconds even after exiting the state. This is great for an attack unit to have because this potentially means we won't need to heavily invest into crit rate for Evelyn when building her, allowing us to focus on other strong stats like attack and crit damage. In addition to binding seal, when Evelyn deals damage using her skills, she will accumulate burning embers, which is indicated by the gauge under her health bar. Once a sufficient amount of burning embers is accumulated while under binding seal, Evelyn gains access to her hold basic attack, garrote second form. This move unleashes 2 attacks, allowing Evelyn to pull on her garrote, performing an air attack that deals a wide range of fire damage as she closes in on her target. This is starting to show us that Evelyn has a single target playstyle that at times allows her to attack multiple enemies at once. I actually kind of like this concept with her attacks because this gimmick kind of reminds me of the tether mechanic with Viking and Guilty Gear Strive, but if it was more like ODM gear from Attack on Titan. I know those are some left field comparisons, but I'm sorry, they're just kind of how my brain works. Now, every time Evelyn unleashes garrote, she gains 1 burning tether point. When 3 burning burning tether points are built, the next Garat will consume all points and trigger a chain attack, dealing an explosion of massive fire damage. This is completely insane. So it seems the entire gimmick for the Stars of Laria faction is to trigger chain attacks in unique ways. The difference between Astra and Evelyn though is that instead of supplying these chain attacks for her team, Evelyn provides them for herself outside of stunned windows. Having a gimmick like this is going to drastically give her a DPS advantage over every attack unit in the game. And then imagine pairing her with Astra as well. Oh man, they are really trying to make skipping this character hard. Like, the only way this character isn't broken is if they really tame her damage multipliers, which, if I'm going to be honest, I imagine that they will, since it seems like they want Miyabi to be the pinnacle DPS for a while. To bring it back to Evelyn though, while under Binding Seal, when she uses her special attack Binding Sunder first form or EX special attack Binding Sunder final form, she will tether enemies around the initial target of Binding Seal and cause an explosion, then exit the state dealing fire damage. This is what I was talking about when I said she has a single target playstyle, but has moments when she can target multiple enemies at once. This move looks like it's going to be very good for grouping enemies, but a cooler use for her special attacks is when you hold the input when certain conditions are met, she can activate either Garat first or second form to lead you back into Binding Seal. That's such a seamless way to give players full control over her kit, because now this allows us to keep her crit rate buff active consistently while accumulating burning embers and building burning tether points as well. Now you would think her crazy gimmick stopped here, but she still has a few more things up her sleeve. When Evelyn perfect dodges a target's attack, she has the ability to accumulate a large amount of burning embers, transforming her dodge count into a chain attack. She also has the ability to perform her special attack when she switches off field while under Binding Seal, like she's performing an outro skill from Weathering Waves. I honestly don't know what else to say in regards to how insane this character is. These unique touches to her kit really make her stand out amongst the cast, and I love that the dev team is flexing their muscles because it really shows that they can take this combat system to unimaginable heights even with it being so simple. This is something that I tried to tell players early on in the game's life, but I understand that most people needed to see it in order to believe it. Finally, we have her ultimates. Yes, plural. Luna licks Garat, Timber, and Shadow. Garat Timber enters her into the Dance of Awakened Fire state, which Evelyn takes off her jacket and gains 1 burning tether point that will retain for the remainder of battle. This means the amount of burning tether points needed to trigger chain attacks is now 2 instead of 3, resulting to even more chain attacks being performed in her rotations. Garat Shadow is essentially the same ultimate as Timber, it just keeps her in the Dance of Awakened Fire state and now gives her a burning tether point whenever you perform it. Now, they didn't specify if those additional points were retained for the remainder of battle as well, but my guess is that it probably won't. If it does, that'll honestly make her too good in encounters like Deadly Assault, to the point that getting copies of her would seem kind of pointless. To harp on her ultimate a little bit more, this is basically an install which I talked about in my Decibel video a few weeks ago. I stated that I wanted this concept to appear in Zenless in the future, but I didn't expect the future to be so soon. Now, it is a lot simpler than I imagined, but it does check off the boxes needed to be considered one. She alters her appearance by taking off her jacket for the remainder of battle, and she buffs her kit, giving herself an additional burning tether point, which means more explosive chain attacks to perform. I do wish there was a bit more to it, but it's still really cool nonetheless, making this character extremely interesting, and it's really hurting me that I have to skip her. Now, that's it in regards to what they showed us on stream, but there's still more to reveal for her kit. They never told us what her additional ability was and how to trigger it, but I'm going to imagine it potentially buffs her DPS in some sort of way, and she will at least want to be paired with a support unit and or Stars of Laria faction members, because there's no way her and Astra aren't ideal partners. Based off how both of their kits operate, they would just synergize so well together, and so far the trend with Zenless has been banners that follow one after another tend to mean that those units have some form of synergy together, and I can't wait to see it in game. Anyways though, to give you guys an idea how Evelyn should be played, you want to enter Binding Seal as fast as you can, which seems to be with her special attacks. This will give you the crit rate buff and the ability to accumulate burning embers, which now allows you to build those embers to gain access to her whole basic attack, to then finally begin building burning tether points. Once 3 burning tether points are built, now the chain attack action begins. This is looking like where a large majority of her damage will be coming from, and depending on how your team manipulates today's meter, Evelyn could potentially set her team up for some insane chain attack sequences. Once you build enough decibels for her ultimate, her rotation becomes even faster, overall increasing her DPS output. good. Honestly, Evelyn is looking insane and has me super excited to see the tech that players develop and the teams that they come up with. After going through all of this, I'm really questioning if I should skip this character because of how insanely fun she sounds. This is giving me flashbacks to when I skipped out on Yanagi, which hurt because she was so much fun to me, but it was definitely the better option for my account, which is technically the same situation here. Evelyn isn't a bad choice at all if you plan to pick her up, which you can see based off everything that we discussed here already. All that's left is to see how she performs with other teams in game, which I can already imagine some good team comps for her. With that being said though, the primary reason for me skipping Evelyn for Astra is to invest into my account's future. If we look at the track record for HoYo games, they tend to make some of their first limited support units really strong in their desired games to the point that they end up having the greatest longevity to almost every unit in their games. Like, look no further than units like Ranmei from Honkai Star Rail and Kazuha from Genshin Impact. Both of these units are still considered some of the best support you can pull, and they released during the 1.0 patch cycle of each game's life. To have units like this be that strong in a game for over 2+ years now is something worth investing into, and I believe how Astra Kit is looking right now, she's going to be the Ranmei or Kazuha of Zenless Zone Zero, which is great because just like those other units, she has amazing universal application, allowing her to work with almost every unit in the game. So no matter what units you're currently running or will be pulling in the future, Astra will be able to provide great support for them, making her too much of a viable asset to skip out on. Now, to be fair, because of how strong Astra is looking, there's also a high chance that she will rerun often. This is another pattern with HoYo when it comes to valuable units like this, because they understand how strong these units are, making their pool value feel almost timeless. So if you do skip Astra for Evelyn this go around, you more than likely will have a chance to grab her again sometime during the 2.0 cycle of Zenless. It'll be a ways out, but at least you got the unit that you want now, and then you can pull for this valuable one in the future. All in all, just grab the units that you like, because like I mentioned already, neither of these characters are bad choices. I would just say just keep in mind what your account really needs so that you can make the smarter investment for the future. And that's everything about Astra and Evelyn. These are amazing units that I can't wait to get my hands on and give you guys content on them, so be sure to stay tuned to the channel. We got a lot more to cover for 1.5, so be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Become a member of the channel if you want to go the extra step to financially support, but is not required. And join the Discord to hang out with the Soul Society. We would love to have you there. I appreciate you guys with all your love and support, and always remember to believe in you that believes in yourself. I'll see you guys in the next one.